Well, hello, I am Matt Williamson, and we're going to dig into this Titans matchup. And as usual, I've got lots of stats and reactions to those and all that good stuff. A little abbreviated. I didn't have as many days to research, but I think you'll get the gist. This isn't a real difficult team to wrap your head around, to be honest with you. So, Steelers offense is averaging 4.6 yards per play, which is really bad. Tennessee's defense allows 5.4. The Steelers' offense is in 11 personnel, just under 75% of the snaps. Only 5 offenses use a personnel grouping at a higher rate. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, who's the Steelers' best 5th guy right now with Freiermuth out? I mean, if you're to put Hayward back, Pickens, Johnson, I still think it's Austin. They seem to think it's Robinson. All this 11 personnel, maybe that's not the root of the problem, but maybe you can mix it up a little more. Anyway, opposing offenses are attacking Tennessee out of 12 personnel 23% of the time, which is the 7th highest rate out of 12. So teams think it's best to attack the Titans out of 12. Maybe. I wouldn't mind seeing an extra offensive lineman as that guy. The Steelers' offense has produced just 7 first-quarter points. 7. They also have just 9 first downs in the first quarter of games, which is the worst in the league. And to put it in perspective, Steelers have 9 first downs in the first quarter. Awful, right? The Jets are second worst, and they have 14. I mean, it's a distant last. Pittsburgh's offense is averaging 1.1 points per possession, 31st in the NFL, and have punted on a league worst 49.4% of their drives. So basically every other drive is a punt. And just 18.1 of the Steelers' drives have reached the red zone, also the lowest percentage in the NFL. On third downs over the last 2 weeks, they're 7 out of 24. Terrible. The Titans have 6 sacks last week. Only 1 defense blitzes at a lower rate than Tennessee. So they're going to bring 4. Their front 4 is good. And they had 6 sacks last week. So they're maybe on a heater here a little bit. You know, you have something to deal with, especially Justin Simmons. Tennessee's 27th in completion percentage allowed, as well as yards per attempt allowed. As a team, Pittsburgh's offense, though, is 28th in completion percentage. So, there going to be any balls completed in this game? Well, Tennessee allows a bunch. Only 3 defenses are being targeted deeper downfield than Tennessee, who face an average depth of target of 8.7. So, they're sort of like the Steelers defensively. People attack them deep, but, well, no, they're not like the Steelers. The people attack them deep, and they allow a high completion percentage. The Steelers get attacked deep, but don't allow a high completion percentage. So Deontay, he received a 30% target share against Jacksonville, while George Pickens had a season-low 12.1 share in that game, 12.5. In the first half of last week's game, Johnson was targeted 11 times, all by Pickett. Every other Steelers receiver combined for 6 first-half targets. In the second half, with Trubisky at quarterback, Johnson was targeted 3 times, while Pickens, Warren, Harris, and Hayward each had 4 second-half targets. It does look like Pickett's going to play, though. So I made this note thinking Trubisky had a good chance to play. I think it's going to be Kenny. This is impressive. I know it's not a huge sample size, but Johnson leads the Steelers at 2.26 yards per route run, and Pickens is right behind him at 2.19. Over 2 is really good. Really good. Like Tyreek's almost at 4 this year, which is bonkers. But if you're over 2, that's like Pro Bowl stuff. So those 2 are much higher than a year ago. To put it in perspective, Austin's at 1.09. Robinson is at 0.73. They got to stop putting him out there. Against Jacksonville, Robinson played 46 snaps compared to 12 for Austin. Austin was targeted twice and carried the ball twice. Robinson was targeted once. So he's out there for 46 snaps. They threw him the ball once. Pickens has produced 36 or fewer receiving targets in 2 of the 3 games this year he has played alongside Johnson, but 75 plus in 3 of the 4 games without Johnson in the lineup. A little more balance there would be good. The Titans are allowing the 4th most receptions per game and 7 most yards per game to receivers aligned on the perimeter. Pickens has aligned on the outside for 88% of his snaps and Johnson for 83%. Both should blow up in this game, is basically my point here. Rodney Williams outsnapped Washington 12-10 last week, while Connor Hayward paced the tight ends with 49 snaps played. Washington was not targeted and ran just 6 routes. Hayward has run a route on 96% and 82% of his team's dropbacks the last 2 weeks. So he's not staying in the block. Last week was Hayward's career high in targets and receptions. Tennessee has yet to allow a touchdown to a tight end this entire season. I told you this before, but we'll do it again. Najee had 35 snaps. Warren had 33. Harris carried the ball 7 times. Warren carried it 5. They weren't going to run a lot against the Jags anyways. But Warren ran 24 routes compared to 18 for Harris. Both got 5 targets. Harris caught 5 passes for 42 yards. He had 3 games during the first 6 contests of his rookie season with at least 42 receiving yards, but has not topped 42 since. So that's his highest since his rookie year. Pickett is the Steelers' 3rd leading rusher, but only has 22 yards on the ground thus far. The Steelers' 3.4 yards per carry is only better than Vegas, Tampa, and Houston. 3.4 yards per carry. 34% of the scoring plays against Tennessee have come via touchdown, the lowest percentage in the league. So when you score against these guys, it's usually a field goal, obviously, or I guess a safety or something along those lines, but you get the drift. All right, I'll be right back. We'll talk about when Tennessee has the ball. All right. Yards per play. Tennessee's offense 5.2. Steelers D 5.6. Titans utilize 11 personnel at the 27th highest rate in the NFL, but only the Falcons use 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, a higher percentage of their offensive snaps. And only 7 offenses use 21, running back, fullback, tight end, at a higher rate than Tennessee. So you're going to get a lot of heavy personnel, but that's what the Steelers have dealt with all year. Steelers have only faced 11 personnel on 55% of their snaps, which is like at the bottom of the league. So they've dealt with a lot of fullback, a lot of extra tight end, and it's going to happen again this game. Only 4 defenses have allowed a better completion percentage than Pittsburgh. As a team, the Steelers' offense, the Titans' offense is 27th in completion percentage, but no team on average throws the ball further downfield. Tennessee's passing game has an average depth of target of 9.7. When the ball comes out, it's almost 10 yards downfield. Meanwhile, only the Bengals' defense is being targeted downfield further than Pittsburgh's, who face an average target of 9.3. So as I told you, teams are throwing deep against the Steelers, but not completing many, where the opposite is true. Well, sort of the opposite is true with Tennessee. Teams are throwing deep against Tennessee and completing a lot. Tennessee throws deep a lot, especially Levis. His first career start last week, he was 19-29, 238 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 to Hopkins, 0 interceptions, 8.2 yards per attempt. That's per attempt, not average depth of target. It's a big number. 29% of Levis's targets were 20 yards or deeper, the highest rate of any passer in week 10. The Steelers give up 108.7 passer rating on passes 20 yards or more downfield, the 4th worst in the NFL. So teams are throwing deep on the Steelers because they've been successful with that. And Levis is going to do a lot of it. DeAndre Hopkins finished last week's game with 128 yards and 3 touchdowns, but that was just his 2nd time this season that he's had over 65 receiving yards. Hopkins now averages 2.8 yards per route run, 7th best in the NFL of all wide receivers with at least 50 targets. I mentioned that with Deontay and Pickens. Over 2 is great. Hopkins is at 2.8. Huge number. The Steelers are giving up the 3rd most receiving yards per game just to the wide receiver position. 195.3 yards per game to receivers. Now, Chigakonkwo reminds me a lot of Evan Ingram, actually. Smaller, athletic, good with the ball in his hands, pretty explosive. He is yet to clear 35 yards in a game this season, but he played 49 snaps last week compared to 40 for Trevin Wesco and 16 for Kevin Rader, who you might remember. Of the 7 receiving touchdowns, 6 belong to either Hopkins or Westbrook Akine. They both have 3, so there's only 1 others. Now, Levis was also pressured 44% of his snaps against Atlanta, and they lost Grady Jarrett in that game, who's very good. Only 1 offense in the league is getting blitzed and pressured at a higher rate than Tennessee. The Steelers' defense is 8th in pressure rate. 11 different Steelers defenders have recorded a sack this year. Titans quarterbacks are getting sacked on 11% of their dropbacks. Only the Giants are worse. So this throwing deep stuff's great. But Levis is going to get hit a lot. And I could see a lot of Landon Roberts blitzes being very effective. I think the Steelers 4+ sacks, maybe 7, so he's going to get hit a lot. So including the postseason, over the 2020, 2021, 2022 seasons, Derrick Henry had 15 or fewer carries just 3 times. 15 or fewer. 15 is a pretty big number for a back. 42 games, he had 3 times he didn't get 15 carries. Thus far, he's gotten 15 or fewer carries 4 times already this year. However, that might be changing. Henry ran for 101 yards on 22 carries last week, but that's his 2nd straight 100-yard game. Last week with Levis was also Henry's season high in receptions with 4. He's not a big-time pass catcher, but they dump it to him. Henry is the current active career rushing leader, although he only entered the league in 2016. Over the past 2 seasons, when Ryan Tannehill is out of the lineup, as he will be on Thursday, Henry averages just under 25 carries per game. He's going to get the ball a lot. So he's got 526 rushing yards. Tajee Spears has 198. That's 724 of the Titans' 811 on the ground. 89% of their rushing yards are Spears and Henry. That'll probably change with a little more mobile quarterback, but they're the 2 who get the ball. Steelers are giving up the 4th most rushing yards per game just to the running back position. 115.4 yards on the ground to running backs. Just over 48% of the scoring plays against Tennessee have come via touchdown. Against the Steelers, have come via touchdown, the 6th highest percentage in the league. All right, that's going to do it. We will talk soon. Over and out.